And we have four. So has anybody had a chance to take a look at the minutes from April 28th? Any comments or concerns?
I wasn't there that day, but we only had like 4 SKATS members. I mean, we completed our business, but we probably didn't have a full discussion. We wanted on certain items.
Thanks. Do I have a motion to approve it?
One motion to approve.
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Been moved in second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any nays? Motion passed unanimous. The next up is public comments. Or somebody like to address the board? Anybody from the public? Okay, next up is item D, public hearing and recommended adoption for the SKATS. FY 2027-2032, it's the Transportation Improvement Program tip and associated air quality and conformity determination. Mr. Steve.
Okay, I'm gonna pull my slides up. Give me a moment.
I'm gonna set this gently on the counter over here.
Yeah, it's a thick document. I think it's 188 pages altogether. And okay, go. So the purpose of this agenda item is to first conduct a public hearing related to the update of the SKATS Transportation Improvement Program and the accompanying air quality conformity determination. And then after we go through all the steps of the public hearing, at the end, we'll ask the policy committee to approve resolution 26-8, which adopts the air quality conformity determination, resolution 26-9, which adopts the actual transportation improvement program and keeps our federal funding for transportation dollars flowing for the next 4 years. And just a note, we do need a unanimous vote of members who are present to adopt both of these documents. So I put on, this is also on the agenda, but I just put on a slide as well, the steps and for the public hearing. So the first step is that we will, I'll ask the chair to open the public hearing, and I'll do my presentation for public comment on the tip, time for questions, and then after the close of the public hearing, there'll be further committee deliberation, and then we'll ask the committee to make their decision on the draft today.
Good. Do we need to open it up?
Yes.
Okay, so I'd like to open up public hearing on the drafts SKATS FY 2027-2032 tip and the air quality control. The staff presentation.
Okay. So I'll give a little bit of an overview. I think some of this is going to be familiar to folks, but I think it's worth, since we're at the adoption point, it's worth going over some of the details again. So the Transportation Improvement Program is our federally required document that actually authorizes the allocation of federal surface transportation funding for the metro area. This tip is covering the periods of 2027 through 2032, and it authorizes funding for the first 4 years. So starting this October 1 through the end of September 2030. And then just for planning purposes, SKATS includes 2 informational illustrative years of 2031 and 2032. The federal sources that are, or federal funding sources that are included in the project listing includes our SKATS discretionary funding, which is where we spend most of our time focused in terms of the project application, evaluation, and selection. But also things like the ODOT administered funding when they're doing ADA improvements or other projects that happen to be inside the SKATS planning area. The biggest instances of those would be the Center Street Bridge replacement and the I-5 widening project that are in place right now. There's also transit formula funding that flows directly to Chariots. That formula funding is included in the tables as well. And then any federal discretionary awards for programs like the Safe Streets for All or the RAISE grant program, which I think is now called the BUILD program. In terms of timeline, this slide just outlines some of the key points in the process. So we had an application period, which ran from the end of 2024, and then we asked jurisdictions to complete their applications by February of 2025. In the spring, we went into our review and scoring of applications, as well as our public review of the applications, where members of the public could comment and give feedback on the proposed projects at that time. In the summer of last year, we reviewed funding scenarios. We tested some funding scenarios with the TAC, presented those findings to this group. And in August of 2025, the policy committee approved projects to receive grant funding from SKATS. In February and March of this year, we had our 30-day review period of the actual document. So put all the chapters together. At the February meeting, the policy committee released the draft tip for public review, and we held that public review period through the end of March of this year. And most recently, we discussed some of the comments at our April meetings. And then on the May 12th meeting, the TAC recommended approval of the tip by the policy committee. And so that's where we are today, is the public hearing, which we're doing, and then our request for adoption from the policy committee. So in terms of what's in the document, there's 9 chapters outlined here. It starts from just very basic intro information about what the tip is, what it does, time period that it covers. Our chapter 2 covers the federal requirements and consistency with other plans like our long-range MTP here at SKATS, as well as the local transportation system plans for the member jurisdictions. Chapter 3 is financial planning. Just looks at the revenue sources and what we're anticipating through the next 4 to 6 years. And then chapter 4 is more detail about the performance-based planning and programming and how we'll be meeting our established targets for the transportation system, both on the roadway side as well as on the transit side. We have public involvement chapter in chapter 5. Chapter 6 is basically the write-up of our process that we've gone through over the last year and a half to get to this point. Chapter 7 is where the actual tip tables are. So that's the listing of all the projects, meeting schedule, funding sources, project descriptions, all that information. Then chapter 8 is the demonstration of fiscal constraint that just shows that our proposed spending does not exceed our revenue that we're anticipating. And finally, an analysis of the project select in the document. There are 7 parts to the appendix. This is more or less just more information, more detail than what's in the body of the document. So it has more description of the schedule we underwent, the project prioritization process that we underwent, a lot more detail on the outreach and public involvement. And then also in Appendix E is our air quality conformity determination. So that's an important part of this process as well. And that section of the tip, or that appendix of the tip, states that the projects that are adopted are in conformity for our air quality standards. Okay, so then there's a couple more, just kind of more background information, funding flexibility matrix, and the acronyms appendix as well. Have a couple more slides just kind of describing at a high level what's in the document. So the full list of projects is in table 12, and that's in chapter 7, like I mentioned. And there's a total of 52 projects with a total cost of about $161 million. The subset of that is the actual new set of projects that the policy committee approved back in August of last year. And that includes $25 million for 7 new projects and 2 existing projects that requested additional funding as part of this cycle. There's also $6 million in new funding for our 4 region-wide programs, the Traffic Signal Control Center, the Transportation Options Program, the SKATS Safe Routes to School program, and the NPO planning for the work that our planning staff does throughout the year. So there's $6 million in new funding for that. And there was actually some previously programmed funding for region programs in 2027. So in total, it's about $8 million of that 161 is for the 4 programs. Last bullet point just again mentions that, you know, there's all this SKATS discretionary funding for projects. There's also important funding that is transit formula funding, federal discretionary awards, and then anything that ODOT administers and selects projects for as well. So in this cycle, we included a supplemental illustrative list of projects. These are projects or project phases that aren't funded at this time, but they are included in our internal, well, they're included in the document by reference, and then they're included in our internal financial plan for future consideration of funding. And there's about $12 million of funding on that list. It's for 4 different projects that was approved as part of the list of priority projects that will be funded. So at this point, I'm going to shift into the edits that were made to the TIP. And if you're following along in your packet, there's a PDF page 15 has an overview, bullet points of all the edits that were made. But I wanted to highlight these because I thought it was important just to mention what's changed since you last saw this in February as a draft. And I'll just go through some of the more important pieces of that. Switch over to the document itself if that's helpful as well. But for now, I'll just kind of scroll through this write-up. So in terms of general edits, we added this page. You'll see that bigger. Okay. So in terms of general edits, we added the resolutions for adopting the AQCD and the TIP. Will be updated when they're signed. But those are now in the document. The other notes here, the second and third bullet points are just formatting, font consistency, and table and figure numbers. In chapter 1, on pages 2 and 3, we shortened some of the text in the how is the TIP developed and the transportation planning and programming sections of the document, just to reduce some of the duplication of writing in that section. In the financial planning section, which is chapter 3, on page 21, there's a table which table 1 outlines all the revenue sources that we're anticipating over the 4-year period. And so there were a few updates to that. The first was there were two amendments that to the document that impacted the funding levels. That was because the South Salem Transit Center received a discretionary grant award, so we had to leave that updated number. And then there was another project added for senior and disabled transit service, so that updated the revenue number as well. Also updated here was the starting balance of our SKATS discretionary funding, because if you remember back in February, we had a presentation about project savings on the Orchard Heights, the Rhoda Lane, and the pedestrian safety projects. So because of the reduced amount of funding, there was funding that went both back to the jurisdictions as well as to SKATS bottom line. And so as a result, the starting balance was a little bit higher than what was in the draft from February. These next couple are more in the weeds, just having to do with the annual amount that ODOT anticipates spending on operation and maintenance in the SKATS area. So there was dates there. And added annual revenue and expenditure info to table 2. Oh, I think that has to do with the same. That was an update that I just had to work with jurisdictions that I didn't finalize before the draft went out. It's a table that gives an estimate for how much each jurisdiction will be spending on maintenance and operation in the next 4 years. In chapter 4 on page 33, there's still an outstanding edit that I'll be making later this week, but it's some specifics about our calculated amount of anticipated carbon monoxide emissions reductions from the projects that are receiving CMAQ funding. I was waiting on some data to finish that, so I'm going to update that number later this week, but wasn't able to do that before adoption today. In chapter 5, the public involvement chapter, on page 41, we added the background summary of comments that we received during the public review period, as well as notes on the edits that were made based on those comments. So that's been added to the document, as well as other comments that were received outside the regular comment period, but needed to be noted in this section as well. So those notes were updated. And the last part in this chapter is just comments from partner agencies. So we do a consultation process where we reach out to a lot of different public agencies in the state, just to make sure that they're not seeing any red flags or issues with the project's document. And we got a couple minor edits. One of them was we misnamed the Oregon Department of State Lands as what they used to be the Oregon Division of State Lands, and it got left in a spreadsheet and somehow was in the document, so they corrected me. And then
we know who they are.
Yeah. The local match also, I think Julie thought that on the Fisher Road project, the local match for that project is being split between City of Salem and Marion County, because sections of that sidewalk infill project are in the county, so made that update as well. In chapter 6 on page 49, we added a footnote with some additional context on the Court and Hazel Green roundabout project. And this was the result of our conversation at the April TAC and policy committee meetings. But essentially, this is a footnote just acknowledging that the application that was submitted and is on our supplementary list of project was for the design and construction of the roundabout. this project could move forward in some capacity in the future as a scaled down intersection study. And the note just also mentions that before it moves forward with funding, project would be coming to our TAC and our policy committee for review. We're just capturing that there could be a change in how that project looks when it gets to the funded stage. And this was kind of the easiest way to just make that note and not, well, since it's not a funded project at this point, since it's on the supplemental list, it doesn't actually impact our funded list of projects in the TIP. In chapter 7, in the listing of projects, there were 3 changes. One was to the commercial street, the Ratcliffe project, which was just an edit to the project description to include the protected bike lanes, which are being included as part of the project on the east side of Commercial Street. An edit to the South Salem Transit Center to add the discretionary bus and bus facilities grant that Chariots was awarded in February or March of this year. And then the last one was to add a new project, which was the 5310 formula funding project, which is also a Chariots project and one that will fund either maintenance or operations of service for seniors and people with disabilities. And getting close to the end of all the changes, but here in chapter 8, there was updates to tables 13 through 17. These are the tables that balance the revenue and the proposed commitments. And the changes to these tables just coincide with the amendments that resulted in project savings that I mentioned earlier, and then the amendments adding adding additional funding for the transit center and the transit service that I mentioned as well. And then the last bullet point in that section just mentions the ending balance as a result of the savings. The ending balance in the unprogrammed balance actually increased from what was in the February draft as well. So the rest were edits that were made in the appendices, and Appendix C, which is the prioritization process. I already mentioned the same footnote for the Court and Hazel Green roundabout project. In Appendix D, which is outreach and public involvement, again, just adding info from, well, actually first the overview of outreach activities was added. The section D2, the comments that we received during the 30-day public comment period were added, and then our other comments received from the public were added as well. And finally, in Appendix E, the air quality conformity determination, Ray and I had a meeting on April 1st with the air quality conformity consultation group of EPA and DEQ and FHWA and anyone else?
And ODOT.
And ODOT. And we just added the notes from that meeting. We updated the dates. We didn't have those included in the draft either. And then we also added the air quality conformity determination letter from FHWA that SKATS received in 2023 for our long range metropolitan transportation plan. So that is all the changes that are in the draft and all the anything that is different from what you saw in February. And that concludes my presentation. So the next step is public testimony.
Yep. So at this time, we'll have public testimony. Would you like to address this? You have a 3-minute window. Anybody like to address the comments. Open for public comment. No hands. Anybody in the room? We can keep this open for a few minutes.
I think if no one's volunteering, I think we can move on to questions from the policy committee.
Okay. We will keep, if anybody that's public wants to talk, we can always open it back up. Right now, we'll open to questions from the policy committee. Anybody on the committee have questions?
I do.
Go ahead, Sadie.
Thank you, Chair Morthorst. I am wondering, first of all, thank you for putting this all together. I know it's a huge lift. Every time we have to do it, it's a big document and there's a lot that goes into it. So I appreciate all the work that's been taking place on our community's behalf. In chapter 3, I just wasn't clear listening to your presentation or looking at the document. Are the conversations, I'm not sure where the conversations that we had as a policy committee about the planning funds to support COG and the way that we were distributing those costs among SKATS members. I'm not sure where that landed. So I'd like kind of an update on that, and to know whether or not that is kind of embedded in chapter 3 and it's just not sort of up on the surface where it's easy to see. So that's my first question.
Maybe I can answer it. So I think, so the tip only gives the full dollar amount of PL funds and FDP funds be used for planning, right? But the UPWP, which is a different document, takes those funds and develops the programs. And then we've been having discussions over the last few months about the match from the members. So those are kind of two, they're related but separate discussions. And you look later in today's agenda, we're going to go review that matching issue again. So the amount that the locals provide as match doesn't go into the detail in the tip. It just says, hey, we're going to get PL funds and use STPG funds, and the local match is like 10.27. And then the details of how much is being charged to each member, that goes in the UPWP.
Yeah, and just to add to that, the table, the kind of the crux of chapter 3, the way it looks is it's our anticipated revenue table that I have shared here. And so Mike mentioned, there's the PL funding line. So this line is our anticipated revenue from the federal government of PL fund. The STBGU line also is relevant here because a portion of that is used for NPO planning as well. And then down at the bottom, we have our local funding sources that are non-federal match dollars. And so had the breakdown of that. And also it could slightly change, I guess, is kind of a shorter version of that. But I used the most current information from our UPWP discussions. But if there's any change in, if ODOT is going to match less or more of our PL funding, then these numbers would be out of date in this table. So, but at least for now, this table, what it does is it demonstrates to FHWA and FTA that as a whole, this is our revenue estimates, and then later in the document, it balances that against the anticipated spending, and it just says that we are in fiscal constraint, and that's kind of the key purpose of this part of the document, because we're not spending what or we're not overspending what we can reasonably anticipate is going to be available. So the answer, I think maybe what I'm hearing is the short answer is yes, our agreement or lack thereof
so far is embedded in this document, but we won't make that decision until after we have adopted this document as a group.
Well, once again, if I'm trying to answer your question as I'm hearing it, what Steve and I are both saying is that those planning dollars, they are included in the tip,
Right.
but the breakdown of how much each member pays as part of the match, that's not part of the tip. That's kind of worked out in the UPWP. Is that going to answer your question?
And I should have highlighted this line at the bottom here, this UPWP match line. So like Mike was saying, we just have the UPWP match as a, for lack of a better word, a pool. So we have the full amounts and we don't go into how that's broken down by jurisdiction. That's that bottom line. But for everything else, you know, our construction projects, all the other contribution, it is broken down by jurisdiction in each line above here. How this 145,000, how that's broken down amongst jurisdictions isn't explicitly stated in the document.
Okay. I have one other question right now, if that's okay, and then I'll cede the floor to others that might have questions. The selection criteria that we used to evaluate the projects when they came in, that selection criteria did not reflect the public input that SKATS staff received in the survey, that 300 or some odd, maybe 280, something like that, people responded to. We got that survey input back, and then the policy committee declined to incorporate it in the selection criteria moving forward. But then I guess maybe that's the first part of the question. And then there might be an additional question about selection criteria. I just wanted to confirm that.
Well, we didn't make changes to the weighting of the technical, am I saying this right? The technical scoring criteria. Yes, we did not make any changes to that weighting. As from what was used in the previous cycle, we did make edits to the text of some of the criteria. So and we simplified the qualitative scoring criteria. So there were some changes, but the policy committee decided not to make all the changes that were discussed in the public input.
And was there also, I think I'm remembering a proposal to add selection criteria around greenhouse gas emissions reduction that the policy committee declined to add?
I think I should pull up that page and I'll try to skip down to that, because there is a criteria that is along those lines, but I can't remember.
The projects are highlighted by air quality.
Okay.
For non-exempt.
That's also true. So there are exempt and non-exempt projects. Okay, so here's criteria. I think this might be the one you're thinking of, Sadie. Criteria number 8. I'll make that, sorry, that's small. Criteria 8 of the technical criteria is reduces greenhouse gas or carbon monoxide emissions.
Maybe it was a weighting that was proposed for that one that we declined.
I think there were some commenters, I believe, who I can't remember to what degree, but I think there were some commenters who suggested raising the weighting of that, as well as a couple other, I think, further increasing the safety.
Oh, yeah. That was definitely one, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe one related to either transit or the gap system.
Mhm. And then we, as a policy committee, did not adhere to the selection criteria evaluations that were forwarded from the technical advisory committee in our ultimate selection of projects to include in this tip.
Well, yeah, so it was iterative, and so we went through the technical and the qualitative scoring separately, and then there were 2 or 3 meetings where we used that scoring to come up with proposed scenarios, and it was through those scenarios that we came up with the approved project list in the end. Right. So it was a process that step by step incorporated the scoring results as well as the geographic distribution, sharing between jurisdictions and input. And it wasn't, I guess, to your point, it wasn't a 1-for-1 funding of projects that scored either highest on the qualitative or the technical scoring, but the relationship was something that we did look at during that selection step.
Mm-hmm. It's
Now,
just, it's
all that was built into the input to the policy committee, all these scores and input. But it's eventually the policy committee that takes a look at everything and develop the output of what projects are.
correct. Yeah.
So it wasn't ignored. It was part of it's part of the process.
Yeah. These are the steps that we'll follow to get this list going.
Well, I think it was a different path that the policy committee took this time than I have seen in past tips. I've seen a few now, and it seems like we really departed from the TAC recommendations this time around, and from how the selection criteria evaluated the different projects.
Right. Okay. Any other questions? Comments?
Question.
So
Is this public comment?
Public
You want to
comment?
return to public comment?
I'll return to public comment.
Yeah, no, wait, you
All
want
right.
to ask for consent to return to public.
So that consent to return to public comment.
Yes.
Okay. Objection.
Hearing no objection.
Is there a chance we're gonna reduce the amount of gas tax we collect with the price of gas so high? People might drive less.
That's not here in this.
There's
So
no, we don't anticipate that. There's no.
we have no idea. We don't control that at this meeting. So.
Well, I know we don't control
Yeah.
it, but nobody's mentioned it.
But we don't even know. That's something that's can be decided in the Marble Nut House. So. Yeah. Okay. So any other questions from committee? We'll come out of public comment. In committee.
I do have
Hey,
one more.
questions? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair Mordhorst. I have a question for SKATS staff about what happens if a policy committee member abstains in this vote.
Well, we'd have to talk about this again next month. We wouldn't have an adopted tip, and then starting October 1st, then not having an adopted tip, the full list of projects wouldn't be incorporated into the STIP. And so the jurisdictions couldn't enter into an agreement with the state to execute the projects that are outlined in the STIP for our metro area.
yeah, like Steve said at the beginning of his presentation, according to our cooperative agreement, this language that goes back to 87, I think. The TIP, as long as the long range plan has to be adopted unanimously by those present at the meeting. So for the last, 20 years or 30 years I've been here, when a member, for whatever reason, he or she is not pleased with the final document, they have sometimes chosen just to step out of the
Sam
meeting.
walked out,
Sam stepped out of the meeting. Sam Bertano had stepped out of the meeting.
didn't want to hold it up.
Basically, he said, I don't feel personally that I could support this document, but I don't want its passage. So he would just excuse himself and say, I won't be voting on this item, and allow the rest of the policy committee members to approve the document. And that's how we conformed to the language in the cooperative agreement. But Steve says if there were like 7 votes to adopt and 1 to abstain, I don't think we can consider that unanimous. We can have a discussion about that. So that would leave us in a precarious situation where we don't have an adopted document, and then you can't move forward with the governor signing off on this document, including in STIP. It causes a lot of trouble if we don't have unanimous approval of the document.
Yeah. And I know we had a conversation a few months ago about an update to the cooperative agreement. But I haven't seen or heard about any plans to revisit the updating of the cooperative agreement. I can't remember how long ago it was that we voted to make the changes on that as a committee.
Well, without going into the long history of 24 and 25, I think at the beginning of this year, a few members said they want to revisit the discussion about the cooperative agreement, especially the membership. And we had discussions here. I think the city of Salem was still took a little time to decide where they stood on the whole issue. But I think enough time has passed that we could come back as a group and see where we want to go, both with the membership and as far as Almsville becoming a member, and anything to do with number of voting members. So I think that's I think I know where it's going. And then anything else we think we need to change in the cooperative agreement and the bylaws. I think the bylaws do need some review as well. So those are things I think we want to tackle the second half of this calendar year. Now that some time has passed, people have kind of thought through where their own jurisdiction stands on all these issues. So it won't be coming back. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. The only thing I don't quite have a hold of is how long ago it was that we did vote as a committee to change the number of votes per jurisdiction.
Yeah, I forget exactly which month it was. It was a very complicated discussion. And at the end, we had a vote, but then it was brought up to my attention that we didn't, because of all the amendments happening and the substitute amendments, we weren't quite following Robert's rules, all those motions. So and also it was very clear that even with the split vote, we were not going to get certain members to basically sign off on the bottom line. Which we need everyone to sign off on the cooperative agreement.
Just like this document.
Yeah, except it's a little different because especially for the counties, you have 3 members who sign on the cooperative agreement. So that's kind of the stumbling block. We have to make sure all 3 members of the counties sign off, as opposed to the cities and the other members, they have just their mayor or their chair sign off. So it's an uphill issue to get everyone in agreement on these.
Yeah, it seems that we won't ever make an update to the cooperative agreement cooperatively. We'll do it in line with the county values.
Not just county values, the city values as well. So if there's a big dynamic here, it's not the counties. There's city of Salem involved as well, to where it stands inequitable. And it's that decision. So those meetings, it became very clear that there's an impasse. That's my goal, to get us all on one page. And we're waiting for a statement from the city of Salem. And Mel, I'll be right with you. So we're waiting for City of Salem is discussing this now, last I heard. And I don't know, Maya, do you have any idea of decision on this? moving forward?
I still need to discuss with city manager, but we are aware of the issue and we are discussing it.
Okay. So once we hear back from the City of Salem, then we can move forward. But they're coming up with their time frame, their decision now. So is that kind of answer your question? Tell us where we're at, because we're kind of all in limbo until we hear back from them.
Mr.
Okay.
Chair, we're not in limbo on this issue, though.
No, not in limbo
We have
on
the
this
ability
issue
to
at
move
all.
forward on this issue.
Today on this, we've all reviewed this, we've all spoke, we've all discussed it, getting us to this point. I'm hoping we can move this forward and get this passed. So,
But we haven't all agreed on everything that's in it.
well, no, we haven't all agreed on everything, but you have to take a look. We'll never agree on everything. But you gotta take a look at the whole package as a whole. Do we all benefit from this package? Yes, every one of us has projects involved in this. So it's moving it forward for community and the funding and the investment that we've been working for. So that's what this is all about. We didn't all get everything we wanted. We never will. That's just life. But getting it to this, it's been more than fair coming up to this line. Mel, go ahead.
Thank you. Listening to Sadie's questions and the answers to them, I'm unclear now on what. I guess there's a dynamic in this group that I don't quite understand yet, and I'm trying to get a handle on it. And I guess I share a lot of Sadie's same concerns. I know I'm new on the committee, and I've been absent some, so I'm still learning the ropes. I'm gonna go ahead and vote, but I just want, you guys are gonna get a lot of questions from me as we move forward after this meeting. So I'm just trying to understand the Roberts Rules things and the weight and the formula, and it seems that there's some people. Never mind. I'm just letting you guys know that I don't quite all agree with this because of some of the conversations that I hear and the answer to the questions. It's really confusing, and I just feel like I need to say that as a member of this group with the vote. I'm having trouble tracking how some of these decisions are made and how things change in the middle. Things are different in a meeting when some people are here and when some people aren't. So I just want to say out loud to the group that moving forward, I'm going to be asking many more questions about this and trying to really understand as things go along. That's my comment. Thank you.
Go ahead, Steve.
I just wanted to ask, does that include like the process of like the scoring and the review of projects for SKATS discretionary dollars? Okay. Yeah, are there like, I hope I answered it well, but like, are there aspects of what I said that didn't, like, I know it's a complicated process, and so I want to be able to capture it.
So
succinctly.
Oh, there's an echo. Sorry. Honestly, I had my thoughts much more put together and ready to speak, and then when Chair Mordhorst said this is life, it's not fair, kind of deal with it, that really distracted me. So I'm sorry if my comments are jumbled, but that was I'm just being honest. I will, Steve, if you and I wanted to meet separately for this and you can try to help me understand that would be great. But I'm just saying, if I'm going to be asking questions as we go along, I know I've been pretty quiet the time that I've been on this committee so far. I just thought that by sitting and listening to everybody talk, I could get a feel for what was going on and how, but I haven't gotten that yet, and I don't know if it's me.
Okay.
I don't think it is, but there's just it's things aren't seeming to match to me from the agenda to the meeting. I don't want us to hold up the meeting any longer because it's not voting on, it's keeping us from the issue at hand. But that is my comment, and that's how I'm feeling right now in this moment with this group.
Okay, I'm happy to at any point talk through the TIP process specifically. and yeah, answer any questions related to that. I think the other questions about the cooperative agreement, probably best for Mike Jaffe to be the point person on that, but for the tip process, I'm happy to talk through what's in the document and how we step through that process.
And I apologize for my analogy, maybe that wasn't appropriate, but as we go through these, all of these screens, you never get 100% of what you ask for. You go in there trying to get as much as you can and voice your concerns during those meetings. And then once that meeting's done, we have to accept that and move on to the next.
No, I understand that. It's just the way that you spoke, Chairman Woodhorst, was somewhat patronizing, and that's what distracted me. So
I apologize for that. So
thank you.
I apologize, Sadie. All right. So staff summary.
Yeah, okay, so next step in our public hearing process is the staff summary, and I will reshare my screen again, although it's just more to show this steps rather than my summary. At a high level, we've spent 18 months on the review and preparation for the TIP document. We worked through our application review period for SKATS discretionary dollars. That is one element of the total TIP package. Like I mentioned during the presentation, the other elements are the ODOT administered funding that is directed by the Oregon Transportation Commission and has various guidelines for how ODOT selects where they focus funding and on which projects statewide. There's the direct recipient transit dollars, where FTA is a funding provider to chariots directly. So there's that element of projects funded on the project list, and then the discretionary award funding. I'm trying to think of other points to summarize, but we've sort of stepped through this process piece by piece, and I hope that the package and the document that we're delivering today is ready for adoption. I think also, just before I conclude, it's important to recognize that this isn't a final. I mean, it is the adoption of our draft. However, this is a document that we're continually amending and making changes to, that we could, as soon as this fall into 2027, be making amendments to the document. And it's an iterative process once it's adopted as well, because there's project increases, project decreases, usually in recent years increases, but there's changes to the project and what ends up being delivered in the end. So I see this as an important step in the process, and establishing our tips so that we are in compliance and projects are able to enter into their intergovernmental agreements. But it's not the end all of the 2732 tip. There will be points where amendments to projects as they're presented can be made. So yeah.
Okay.
Nothing to add. Steve said it well. It's a living, I like to say it's just a living document. This is the adoption part of it.
So at this time, let's close the public hearing. And let's move on to policy committee deliberation. So we just pretty much covered that. Does anybody have any extra to say? I just want to say that we literally were talking about the policy and membership and then our tip. So this really directs the funding to come to us to make these goals a reality. So that's what we're talking about today, is approving this so we get funding. So if nobody has any other discussion, do I have a motion for a decision to approve resolution 2608 and 2609?
Mr. Chair, I'll move resolution 2608 adopting the AQCD for the SKATS FFY 27 through 32 tip and resolution 2609 adopting SKATS FFY 27 through 32 tip.
Okay.
I think the numbers, did you say the numbers right?
Mhm.
Resolution 26-8 and 26-09.
Great, thank you.
Point of
Okay,
order, Chair. Could we please take them one at a time?
sure. Okay,
Oh,
is there an amendment to
yeah,
the motion?
Mr. Chair, I will.
Okay,
Amend my motion to actually get rid of my motion. And I will make a motion to approve resolution 2608 adopting the AQCD for the SKATS FFY 2732 tip.
Okay.
One second.
okay, it's been approved and second for resolution 2608 with air quality control. So any comments before we call the vote? Okay, I'm gonna ask for yes votes. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Is there any nays? Okay, 2608 has been adopted. Thank you. Now look for resolution 2609.
Mr. Chair, I'll move resolution 2609 adopting the SKATS FFY 2027 through 2032 tip.
It's been moved.
One second.
And a second. So any comments or statements before we call the vote on this? Sadie?
Thank you, Chair Mordhorst. I don't believe it is good practice for someone who is serving in a representative capacity to leave a vote. I think it's kind of a perversity of the system that we are here to uphold. That said, I will take my leave from this meeting until 1 o'clock.
Okay. Okay, any other comments before we call the vote? Okay, all those in favor for approving resolution 2609, please say yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes. Aye.
Schauffer's got his thumb up.
Show me, is it any nays? Motion passes unanimous. Thank you. 2609. Okay. That brings us to item number E, amendment of the SKATS future funding year 2024 to 2029 tip. Steve, and do we want to give it just a minute, let Sadie join us back before we
Yeah.
start on this? Let's just give it a minute.
Okay.
But she's back. Oh, she's connecting.
Okay. I will share my screen, oops. For slides related to this amendment. Okay, so this is an amendment to the current tip document, the 24 through 29 tip, and resolution 20, that should say 26-10. Ignore that, is to add a project which is an ODOT project, sponsored project for ADA pedestrian signal improvements. And some of the locations are in the SKATS boundary, which is why it's coming before this committee. There's no impact to SKATS discretionary funding. The proposal is to add a new project using ADA savings from other key numbers in the STIP itself. And the purpose of the project is to design for future construction of pedestrian activated signals along the state highway system, and the locations are on US 30, Oregon 99E, Oregon 219, and Oregon 214. And like I mentioned, includes locations in the SKATS planning area, which I'll show on a map in just a moment. The total project cost is about $3.6 million, and 3.2 of that will be federal dollars, and then there's the ODOT match included as well. And as I mentioned, there's no impact on SKATS discretionary funding. This map is very hard to see, but this are locations in Columbia County, up in St. Helens, Yahoos, the other part of the project. And then here in Marion County, I'll zoom in as well, but there's locations in Woodburn, near I-5, 214, and then 99E in Jervis, as well as 99E in Salem, as well as near Chamawa Road, near the interchange with I-5 near Keizer Station. So this is the ongoing work that ODOT's been doing related to ADA ramp improvements and meeting the required standards for that. So this is one piece to that puzzle, and it relates to the pedestrian signals. So that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions as best I can.
Any questions for Steve? Mine. Okay, looking for adoption resolution 2610, bringing the SKATS future funding year 2024 through 2029. Resolution, motion,
I'll motion to approve the resolution amending the adopted Salem-Keizer area transportation study FFY 2420 to 2024 to 2029 tip.
there's a second.
Wait, that's a motion.
Mhm.
Well, why am I seeing 2610?
Resolution 2610.
You want to say that?
You left out, it's okay. You read the rest of it.
I'll second.
I'll second.
I second. Okay, it's been moved in second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any nays? Motion passes unanimous. Thank you. Next up is SKATS match to PL funds. Future year 2026-2027 UPW. Hi, Jeffy.
Share, and then that's really okay too. I'm having a little computer problems sharing my slides. I wonder if Ray, you can do your. No, we're just going to jump. I'm sorry, Chair, that's the item G. Item G.
Item G.
We can circle back to item.
Sure.
Later.
It's the FDP update, comments on chapters 2 and 3. Mr. Ray Jackson.
All right. So Sharon. Okay. So back in March, February, we presented chapters 2, which is policies, and chapter 3, which are the goals of the long-range plan, to the TAC and the PC. We received some comments from both Sadie, as in her role of transit board member, and from Nick Forty with West Salem Neighborhood Association. Unfortunately, which the last time we were talking about this, I was using Steve's presentation that had all the comments, and I forgot to include the comments in the packet. I apologize, but I'm going to talk about them anyway, and then you can go read his comments and see what he. We also received comments from Greater Northeast Keizer Neighborhood Association, and we've talked about that last time or the month. So in your packet is a brief summary of the comments from Sadie, which cover both chapters 2 and 3. The comments on chapter 2 were mostly editing, and most of those were all accepted in one way or another. Page 3 shows you the summary that include language basically to.
It's muted now.
Okay, that include the Metropolitan Safety Action Plan and expand some of the language in the chapter. So you can see that on pages 3 and 4. There more comments were provided on chapter 3, which is the goals. These are a lot of them are changes to explanatory statement that is included for each goal to include reference to the Metropolitan Transportation Safety Action Plan, which was adopted back in 2024. Most of these, again, were also accepted. There were 5 comments that are not recommended to be included, and then there were 3 comments that were proposing objectives that are also not included, and discuss those briefly. So the comments by goal. So in goal 1, which is accessibility and mobility, there was a suggestion to expand the explanatory statement to include this language shown on your screen for transit service. And for most of the comments that I'm not recommending including, the comments are moving the explanatory statements away from being mode agnostic to including a specific mode. And I feel if we're going to do that, we should also have more statements, expand the statements for other modes and benefits. The explanatory statement then gets a bit too long. So I'm trying to keep them short because I want people to read these. Goal 4 is also adding, reliable transit options into the explanatory statement on goal 4, which is equitable. Also, and then in goal 5, which is on the efficient to use goal for the plan. Also, another statement that moves the explanatory statement from being mode agnostic. Also, efficiency is not necessarily just a peak hour issue. It can be all day and during special events. Goal 6 is on multimodal system. Again, a not mode agnostic statement or moving it away from mode agnostic. Goal 10, which is public involvement. This statement, I think it would be better put into a goal or objective in the public participation plan because it's specifying what we should be doing for engagement efforts, and the public participation plan definitely is all about how we're doing outreach to the public and what sort of methods should be used and what would be how we should measure that, and finding areas with documented safety or access challenges could be a measure for effectiveness of getting out there or saying where we are reaching out for the public. For the proposed objectives, there were 2 under goal 3, which is safety and security. The first one is identify and address locations with elevated rates of severe crashes to maximize safety benefits. Our perception is that the Metropolitan Transportation Safety Action Plan, we're doing this with the high injury network, which captures the locations in the metropolitan area where there are higher than number of crashes leading to fatalities and or deaths. And so we're using that also in the project evaluation for the long range plan. So it just seems like we're already checking that box without having it as a specific objective. The other one is provide safe access to transit stops. This we feel is better addressed at the local TSB level. They're doing more of the work towards putting, supporting infrastructure around all the transit stops, as well as sidewalks that may, on their system. This could be something that both Salem and Keizer work to or add in their TSB updates that begin hopefully this year. Finally, goal 8, of which is financial, make strategic transit investments that reduce long-term infrastructure costs. Most of our objectives are also mode agnostic because we're trying to be use them for multiple modes. So this gets a little bit too mode specific. I'm also not sure how to if this was an objective, I'm not sure how we'd operationalize it. SKATS does not fund transit service, will fund transit capital projects. Because federal funds available to us are not available to use in transit operations currently. So that's third public or proposed objective. So I want to stop there for Sadie's comments and see if there are discussion on those before we go to the West Salem Neighborhood Association comments.
Any questions? Comments? Okay, hearing none.
Right. So West Salem Neighborhood Association, and this was included in your packet in April. No, it was not. It was in the April. It was not in the, but it was also, it seemed to me Nick sent it right before the March PC, so it was included, but we didn't have time to discuss it. It was also comments on, mainly on the tip.
Right, I saw the tip.
It was on the tip, but it also had parts that could be for the long range plan. So and Steve has addressed this a little bit. The comments were on the equity criteria, the significance of gaps in how we evaluate them, and project delivery and contractor equity, essentially. And then, of course, to enhance our project scoring criteria to et cetera, consider gap significance as a scoring dimension, to use benefit-based equity scoring for assessing community level impact, geographic proximity, and then having policies to disaggregate the projects so you could do portions that are high priority safety components first, and then come back and do the rest of the project. And the TAC, and we've had a discussion on the TAC, and this aligned, their thoughts aligned with my initial responses. So in reverse order, project disaggregation policies, when you're taking a project, then you're slicing it up and then trying to move a portion ahead. That's not really the decision for this board, that's a decision for whoever project it is. So that needs to be something Keizer, Marion County, or Transit decides to do, and they can write their contracts that way to say, we want to make this available to a wider range of contractors by cost, make it a smaller project, less cost, so you can get a smaller company work bidding on it. So that seems like it's outside our control. Gaps, benefit-based equity, and I'm bouncing around, I apologize for that. So the community level impacts are also seem better suited during development of the TIF. They're at the long range plan, we'll look at projects, 20 years out. Community level impacts seem like a better fit for evaluation when you're looking 4 years out or 5 or whatever. The projects are going to come in and exactly who the community is being impacted, affected, benefited. where in a 20-year plan, things can change. So not really, we're going to move this over to Steve's plate and, work on it for the next tip. Gap significance is actually something that we have been thinking and trying to do. So as we discussed with the TAC here, it's the regional systems for the bike, the sidewalks, here's the transit, here's the road ones, here are where the gaps are. So as the local jurisdictions are thinking about doing projects, and this also fits into their development of their TSPs again, which is again starting this year. So hopefully they can do the evaluation and do as well as us, but do an evaluation of which gap is more important. A gap that's like on the sidewalks on Center Street and within the county from 40th to Cordon. That's an important one. There's a lot of people there. The sidewalk gap that's on, pick a random road that doesn't have as many people. That would not have as much benefit. So that's how we're trying to work through the scoring, is see the considerations of the community level impact of how this gap is being closed or being partially closed helps the surrounding community. And the gap significance, filling in a gap is more important than just doing a chunk of a gap and leaving a gap, a smaller gap. But there have been, Nick must be reading, West Salem Neighborhood Association probably is reading the same research reports, because there's one that just came out on how to evaluate gaps. And I was like, we're all thinking on the same wavelength. So that one we're going to work on. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it into this one. We'll have some sort of, we already do gaps. This is just taking our gap evaluation and refining it for the situation at hand. And that's all I have.
Okay. Questions for Ray?
Good. No, Mr. Chair, I do. Staff recommendations, TAC recommendations on these comments.
The staff recommendations were, we didn't have a vote at the TAC.
Acknowledge the comments.
We acknowledge the comments. They didn't have any feedback on changes to or what.
Dave.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. It was helpful. This was a big 229-page packet, so I didn't get as much time to look at these different goals as I might have wanted to prior to this meeting. But looking at goal 5, I guess I'm kind of responding to staff's desire to remain mode agnostic, and I can appreciate that. I'm wondering what we consider as a policy, as a committee, to be a mode. What are the modes on which we are remaining agnostic?
For staff,
Would be called trains, planes, and automobiles.
Right. I mean, that would be an answer, and it would be...
That would be I would say the modes would be the ones that this SKATS policy committee has funds to address. So,
Okay, so
not planes, trains, or but
Automobiles is in there.
automobiles, bicycles, pedestrians, transit.
okay.
Micromobility is not really a separate mode. So
Okay. So things on wheels. So cycling, I guess we would say scooters, e-scooters, e-bikes.
Yep.
Maybe the people in mobility devices that are sort of shaped not
Yep.
like a wheelchair, but right, the ones I'm talking about.
Yep,
kinda
all
roll down.
mobility devices, wheelchairs, everything with a wheel, not everything with a wheel.
So, right.
Personal mobility.
Personal mobility, right, okay. So I'm looking at, for example, goal 5, and I just kind of picked this one. I could probably go through all of the goals with a similar lens. But when we say building new roads, is that mode agnostic? Because I don't see that cyclists or pedestrians are acknowledged in the thesis.
We could take that,
Isn't that a policy?
Mr. Chair. I would, if I'm looking at goal 5, which I am right now, existing explanatory statement, building new roads and widening existing roads is expensive. That's what it says.
Mhm.
If you took that sentence out of the goal, the region should continue to promote and fund travel demand options, system management techniques, and other cost-effective projects that increase carrying capacity of the regional system. So say if you have a problem with, there's the word road in there, you took the system, if you took that road.
No, I'm just asking, is that an example of where we would say, oh, we should be mindful as a committee of being more agnostic in our goal setting because we are selecting a mode, roads, cars and trucks, but no sidewalks, for example. Are we being selective in where we are creating our efficiency, or are we being mode agnostic? That's my question.
So the way I see it, we're looking at all aspects of people movement. And I think maintenance and preservation of our roads and bridges and sidewalks is just as important as how we travel around. Because if a bridge gets limited or tagged, now you drive even farther around. And some of these bridges we have, it's a long ways around them when they get closed weight limited. So here within Salem, there's been a few bridges that's been tagged that Salem has been able to address pretty quickly. But I think that maintenance is just as good, but we address all of them. So mode agnostic, that is, we don't do one, we look at everything as an overall blanket equal. And that would be my view.
Yeah, I would just say roads aren't our mode.
Yeah,
Roads are
Okay.
roads are used by modes. Multiple modes.
Perhaps, and I probably led us down a rabbit hole that I didn't need to, but perhaps in efficient to use, when I think about roadway efficiency, I think about throughput. And I don't think that I'm alone with staff or on this committee in thinking of how many people can we fit through this pipeline in this time. And I think one thing that increases efficiency is higher occupancy vehicles. That's why we have HOV lanes. And so I wonder if we could consider adding higher occupancy vehicles.
Well, that would be travel demand options and system management techniques, but that would, that's transportation planner speak or BVs or for bus
Yeah, or plain language.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe a shift to plain language.
Or I can put parentheses, e.g. under system management, e.g. whatever, like the regional signal control center, travel demand, example, carpooling, or the transportation options program, since we fund both of those.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was gonna say that it's not, when you say roads, it's not just the travel lanes for cars, it's sidewalks. And then that's all part of the planning, bike lanes if they fit. And nowadays, if you're gonna build a road, it needs all of those things. Upgrading old roads is based on space. So
is that true?
like Keizer, we can't do bike lanes on River Road because we just don't have the space. The only way we would do that is by limiting travel lanes, and that would be an issue on River Road. So when I think
Cars.
roads, it includes all modes of transportation on those thoroughfares.
Anyone else? Okay. So let's go back to item F. So next field funds in the this year, 2026, 2027, PWP. Mike, yeah.
Yeah, this is my item, and he's gonna help me by doing this slide. I don't know why my.
Right, yeah.
I have
Sorry.
I have a comment there, please.
Oh, sure, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, we're getting into this conversation about definition. There's a difference between roads and streets. I-5 is a road, it doesn't have any sidewalks. We build a street in Turner, we're required to put in sidewalks, curbs, and gutters, which is a good thing, and I support that. But there's a difference. I mean, and I've been involved in the conversation about I-5 bridge years ago, and everybody wanted everything on it, and we got nothing but spent hundreds of millions of dollars. So there's a difference between road and street. And I agree that I want every street to have a sidewalk, a curb, and gutters and accessibility to people. I walk down the sidewalks every day in Turner. And my apologies for being late, by the way. But once again, it may sound simplistic, but I-5 is a road. Doesn't have any sidewalks or anything else. And there's a difference. And I don't know how you get this into the language. I'll leave this to the staff to do that. But I think we can get really off track here if we get down in the weeds. And listen, I'm not saying it's bad to have accessibility. Don't get me wrong. I don't want anyone to confuse that. But there's a difference between a street and a road. I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, let's go to item F.
Item F is discussion about the matching funds to the PL federal funds and the UPWP. So, okay. So we talked about this item, I believe in February, but definitely in March, about the UPWP and specifically about the funding that goes into the UPWP and then the match to those federal funds. So there's required match to both the PL federal funds and the SKBG federal funds. The PL are formula funds that come to all the MPOs and require a match. And you may recall that in the discussion, this is the second year where instead of ODOT fully matching those PL funds, they expect the MPOs, not just us, but all the MPOs, to contribute 50% of the match funds to the PL federal funds that we get. The STBG funds come from our TIP, as we kind of talked about earlier. Our TIP includes money for regional programs. This is one of the 4 regional programs. And those STBG funds can be used for planning, and that requires match too, and it's the 10.27% match to the federal funds. So back in February and March, I showed you tables of how much the match is for us as an MPO, and how past practice was to allow Turner to have a small contribution. Initially, it was $500 last year, and this year is $2,500. And then the remaining match would be divided by the other 7 members of SKATS for both match to the PL and match to the STBG. So we had a long discussion about that, and Chair Moorhorse stated that Polk County didn't feel that they wanted to contribute to the PL match for reasons I won't go over again, but that was their stance. So we had a long discussion about that, and I remember spending a lot of time kind of working on the minutes so it was accurately recorded about what the discussion was. But it ended up that for the STBG match, it would be divided among the 7 large jurisdictions. The PL match would be divided among the 6 jurisdictions. And you can see the slides gives the amounts for each jurisdiction, 8,088 for the SDBG for each of the 7, 65, 76 per jurisdiction if we divide that by 6 for the PL match. That seemed to be the general consensus, but I know some members wanted it from Keizer, specifically Keizer, and the trans district said, well, they want to go back to their boards and see if the boards were okay or not okay with Polk County not contributing a equal match to the PO funds. And I missed the meeting last month, which I think was mentioned again. Well, just to finish up this May 6th, 26th meeting, I think Commissioner Cameron asked a question: Can we have on the invoices that go out stating something like invoices for the PL? Here's the match amount. Polk County is not contributing match to these PL funds. So there was some kind of record about that, and I'm fine with doing that. I don't think there's any problem with that. So the next slides just kind of reiterate what I just said. Here's the full amount of federal funds, 516,000 at SDBG. The match is a little over 59,000. Turner's kicking in 2,500. The other 7 large members would each provide 8,088, and that seemed to be accepted at the TC meeting. You can see at the bottom of the slide, I'm showing the comparisons to the current year where the match was 10,301. Now, why is it less this year? We made some adjustments to the UPWP, and also we had some, it changes every year because we have savings from 2 years prior that we can apply going forward. So it's not always an easy comparison of why it changes year to year, but I've always tried to keep it at a lowest amount that I could feel comfortable with. So this upcoming year, it's lower than the current. Next slide. So then we get to the PL funds. Again, the required match as a collective is 92,000. Now ODOT's going to provide 53,000 of that. Our share collectively is 39,453. As I just said, if we divided by the 6 members, it would be 65.76 for each of those 6 members. There's general agreement about that, although the Keizer and Trans District wanted to check their boards. The bottom of the slide, I'm just saying, if it was divided by 7, like we normally would do, that's the amount it would be, 56.36. So by Polk County not contributing to match of the PL funds, the other members have $940 more than they otherwise would. These is just math, no judgment. This is just the numbers as they divide by 6, divide by 7. So the other things that we're working on, which is new for us, is trying to satisfy some of the match with in-kind match. And how that works is we're going to count the value of both attending meetings, policy committee members attending meetings, and the TAC members attending their meetings. Now, there's all sorts of details like past precedence says if it's a salaried member of the board, like our 2 commissioners, we don't count their attendance because they are being paid to be there anyway. But if it's someone who's a city councilor that is not a salaried person, we can take the value of their time, and there's a number we use. And as far as the TAC members, we asked them to send us information about what rates we should use for each member, and we're, I think, still collecting that. So we have the forms we're going to use. We just have to fill in how much does the city of Salem staff person make versus, let's say the Keizer person. So anyway, all that will be documented during the year. And we put in an amount of up to $39,000 for match for in-kind. I don't think we're going to meet that. That would be like if we had full attendance every meeting. Meetings lasted like 2.5 hours every meeting. We're not going to have long meetings just for a match. So more likely, as I was looking at it again, it's probably going to be around $10,000 of value of in-kind match. And I'm happy to give you updates during the year. What this means is that I still want to collect the match ahead of time. So collect the think $5,600. But as we know more about the in-kind match, and let's say we get to the end of the year and we've collected, $12,000 of in-kind match. I will come back to the policy committee and say, hey, we collected 12,000 of in-kind match. We can do one or two things. We can either apply some of that extra match, to next year value, or we could give you a refund, maybe, $2,000 for the 6 members that contributed actual dollars. So just trying to make this as fair and process easy for all of us. So we're gonna do this in-kind process. Knock on wood that everything goes well. This is our first time doing it with ODOT. We're trying to do something similar with the Safe Route to School process. But I just wanted to lay out what I heard as what people wanted. As I said, I want to hear back from Keizer and the Transit District if their boards had any issues they wanted to bring up that division of the PL match.
Can I deduct my in-kind contribution from my taxes?
That's between you and your accountant.
Yes, Mel, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that if Polk doesn't pay, then Polk shouldn't vote. That if we're talking about equity and all of that here, at least from a school district standpoint, our budget is stretched as far as it can go, and I really don't. I'm against paying more because somebody else just doesn't want to. It doesn't sound right to me. If we're all on this committee and we are all participating and we are all voting and there's a requirement to pay some into it, then I think we should all be doing that. I don't understand why this is even being brought up that one member wouldn't pay. I don't understand it.
Well, this was not staff's proposal. This was the chair representing Polk County and his memberships brought the suggestion that they don't think that
I was here. I remember all that. I just it's already that's my stance on the issue.
And Mel, I understand, and I'm as frustrated as everybody else. I'm one board member, so
as am I. Yeah.
And my board chose to move forward with this statement based on we have never received a project from SKATS. So therefore, why are we have no problem paying membership, but it's the matching funds for projects that we'll never receive. And that's
I understand what you're saying. It makes sense. I just don't agree with it. Polk County receives benefits from these funds and these projects. Whether it's not the ones that are picked specifically, everybody in Polk County who uses these roads and transportation benefits from these projects. Absolutely. You can't say they don't.
No, I agree 100%. And as a member, I totally agree. That's why I'm still here. But I have no problem not voting on this either. If that's what the group wants and take my voice out of this vote, I have no problem voting on this. But we won't be paying for the cost share. And that's just
then you shouldn't be voting. You should recuse yourself from the vote as well for each project.
I think Mel's saying for every
for the whole thing.
For every decision
everything.
made by the policy committee.
Thank you for jumping in, Sadie. That's exactly what I mean.
And Chair, just for clarity, they are going to pay the match to the STPG funds. So it's not like we're not going to send any invoice, but they're saying on the PL funds, they don't want to pay that match. So it's like one they are willing to pay, one they say they're not. Just so everyone's on the same page about that.
No, I'm on the page. I get it. I just think that if another one of us, what if we all decided we didn't want to pay? We wouldn't have a committee, right? I mean, why does the school district have to pay more because somebody doesn't want to pay at all?
I wish I had an answer to that. I don't.
Okay.
just to go back to specifically, I think Counselor Duran said he wanted to go talk to his board. Was there something from his board that they wanted to share?
No, it's not an issue. We actually have it in the budget, so.
Okay. And Sadie, I saw in the minutes again for the April meeting, which I missed, you have had questions about this division, and was there anything from your board you wanted to share?
Sure. Yes. Thank you, Mike. The transit board is concerned as a body about the potential precedent-setting nature of this shift. Kind of to Mel's earlier point, who's next? Who else is who's gonna get it for free next? So they were worried about that. They do want to financially support the transit board's obligations and participation in the planning fund and the work of the COG and of the Salem-Keizer area transportation study. They find great value in the work that happens here. But is kind of echoing the school board sentiments, they thought that if Polk was not an equal contributing member, or if any member was not an equal contributing member per the agreement that we have, that that shift necessitates revisitation of the cooperative agreement and evaluation on what if Polk is being inequitably treated in project distribution, then we need to look at the cooperative agreement and see how we might more equitably represent the population we are here to serve within the voting structure of the cooperative agreement. And so their stance is, we are happy to support what financial obligation we must in order to move our work forward. However, if Polk is not an equal contributing member, but continues to have the same size vote for the, I don't know, I think it's fewer than 1,000 people that live in unincorporated Polk County in the area that's within the SKATS boundary. If Polk continues to have the same size vote as the city of Salem, which has hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people living in it, then the cooperative agreement needs immediate revisiting. That is the stance of the transit board.
Go ahead, Mel.
Thanks. I'll be quick. I just want to clarify. I did not take it to the school board. I'm here as myself, as representative of the school board. This is my take on the situation. So when I say the school board's budget, so I, as one member, I'm responsible for part of that budget, and I didn't even take it to them because it was just such a hard no for me on this. I just wanted to make that clear distinction between myself. I'm not speaking for the board. I'm speaking as myself, who's a member of that board.
So as Polk County looks at it, what got is when,
Mr. Chair.
yes,
May I speak?
Commissioner.
Yeah, so this discussion goes way back, and Commissioner Moorhorse is in a similar position as I when I represent my constituents here. I know that I've been told I only represent the people within outside the city limits of Salem, but inside the urban growth boundary. If you incorporated that, it would be about the third largest city in Salem. But I also represent the people who are inside the city limits of Salem in Marion County. And when I'm making decisions in this body, and I also represent Turner, who's here, and Almsville, who's here. When I'm making decisions in this body, I don't just draw a curtain and think about those citizens out there, because we have projects that are multi-jurisdictional. But when you look at Commissioner Moorhorse, and I'm not going to say whether I support or don't support, because I just want to get through this issue. But I look at Commissioner Moorhorse, he does have projects in the city limits of Salem that are in Polk County. We have a big project that connects the city of Salem that ODOT is gonna be doing that we have work on, right? So I think one of the challenges in this group is people start to look at their own little piece of the SKATS area, whether it's me looking at outside the urban growth boundary, or him looking at 551, or Chariot's just looking at buses, or Mayor Schaffler just looking at Turner. We will be divided and not united and do what's best for this region. And I think that is really the challenge that this board has and has done well in the past. And we need to not lose that focus. We represent all these. I represent a lot of citizens, as well does Sadie, as well does Mel, and many of us outside jurisdictions or inside jurisdictions. So we don't want to like say, hey, I don't do that. Yes, we do. We all do this together. So I think we need to be very cautious. And I'm willing to support whatever it takes to keep Polk County here. And I didn't take it back to my board, just like you, Mel. I just said, hey, well, let's do it. It's a very small amount of money to keep projects flowing. But this is a board and everybody has a right to speak their piece. But I don't want us to lose focus of who we represent, not just our own constituents, but this whole region on this board. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So do you have the comparison of the size of all the groups, members of this that we used? We're talking about votes. You had,
Populations?
yeah, so where you had that 20-year share of funding. I had populations and everything.
Yeah, I don't have it right now.
Okay.
We've done that in the past year. We've shown
So,
populations. We've also shown how much money in TIP has gone to projects. But also, I think it's good to recognize there are things that the MPO works on that collectively benefit anyone, whether they get a project or don't get a project. And the thing I want to bring up is we spent a lot of effort at staff level on both the third bridge that never got obviously approved, but a lot of staff effort on the Center Street seismic upgrade. I don't think it exists unless staff spent the time working with ODOT, working on this issue, which will help Polk County, Marion County, everyone. So it's not a project for Polk County, but it's work that MPO has done. And then ODOT's obviously the lead, but they have asked a lot from us the last year because they had all sorts of environmental review from federal agencies. And you may remember we had to update our long-range plan to incorporate some changes to that. So there is a lot of work that goes on that's not directly reflected on whether the jurisdiction gets a road project in the area. So I keep bringing that up, and I think I've heard a little bit about from other members that it's more than just how many projects you get funded. It's what is the value of the MPO bringing overall, to the area.
and I'm a huge advocate of what you do and staff does on SKATS, just for the record.
Can I ask a technical question here?
Yeah.
This is says no committee action. Is that correct? Or am I looking at what are we talking about?
We're in F.
Yeah. It's discussion, and I was hoping to get consensus if we can this month, whether fund.
Can I ask a procedural question? So you're just looking for consensus. What if there's going to be a board change in Polk County? At least one commissioner, we know that.
Mhm.
What happens if Polk County reverses their position come
Next year.
January 1 and says we'll contribute?
It's a little late because we have to have this decision
Okay.
for the, our fiscal year starts July
So
1st.
they could write a check and then we'd have a little extra for the next.
They can always come back. If they want to come back and says, hey, we changed our mind, we're going to give you a full share. Here's an extra $904 or whatever. Here's extra $6,000. They could do that,
So I'd just like to say what got us here was we had that 20-year consensus. It talked about all of the members and the population they represented. That showed Polk County as being the smallest member of this group, yet we're considered a large contributor. We have less people than Turner. Why are we a large contributor? If that's based on population and input, then we should be at that $2,500 level, not the level we're at. So all of this effort and all this talk is what got us to this. And what Commissioner Cameron stated, what makes this committee work over all these years was the consensus and the unity that we all had. MWAC, our local act, is the same thing. We all work together and we all have the same goals. Salem, I'm just speaking as one commissioner. Salem is our economic engine. It is our largest employer in the region. I'll bet you half of Polk County comes into Salem or through Salem getting to work. I recognize that and I support everything we do. Same thing is as Turner or Almsville. And in Almsville, they're sitting here in limbo waiting to become a member. They've got absolutely nothing at this time. And that's what I'm trying to get a consensus to get that moving.
They have a project.
And they have a project.
They have a project.
It's nuts.
They
They've
have a
got
project.
They're not getting nothing.
Thank you.
Yes.
Because we're having to depend on Marion County to be our voice, because we have none.
Mhm.
That's sad. So that's how it was set up years ago. It worked very well.
So, Mr. Chair, I think
Hey, excuse me then, why don't we just charge you $2,500 and move on?
That could work.
I mean,
That could work. I could take that to my board. I'm not closed-minded to anything, but it's still gonna be a board decision. Sadie, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I wonder if, sort of in view of the Transit Board's strong position on this topic, we could look at weighting the votes in the cooperative agreement.
Well, that's a whole discussion about, of course, the cooperative agreement.
I don't think we can try to say that these are unrelated.
Yeah.
But they are not.
Yeah.
These are related. This is related to the tip. This is one of the reasons that I left the meeting, because I wasn't allowed to abstain from the vote, because I am required by the cooperative agreement to agree with everybody that is here, regardless of how many projects they have gotten, regardless of how much funding they have gotten, regardless of how many people they represent. And I think that this committee was able to easily agree and move forward with their work in 1-hour meetings for years and years and years. And I think the introduction of some progressive thought and some, frankly, females who are not afraid to speak up in the meeting and ask questions and challenge authority has really slowed things down and also created some dissent. So I'm just going to name that.
Okay. So where do we go from here?
Well, we're kind of stuck unless we have some consensus. I mean, I'm going off what I heard at the March meeting, which was dividing the PO fund by 6 as the last kind of more than half the members agreeing to that proposal.
So Sadie and everybody online, are you still seeing any of our connection?
Recording in progress.
Seeing your individual participant screens, but the conference room did go black for a second.
Yeah.
Anyway, getting back to what I was saying, we're obviously staff just wants to try to get consensus and not revisit this this item over and over. So, that's what we're making the effort to do the in-kind, so it's even less of a burden on the other members that Polk's not paying, need to share. I was hoping that would be sufficient, just kind of lessen the blow, but I could see Sadie Carney is saying that it's more of a principle than dollar amount, maybe. So I don't know exactly where to go from here. At some point, we want to send out invoices to the members saying, what this is fund you need to match the federal funds. You've already adopted UPWP saying we're going to have match. So it's just a matter of, do we make more changes to how much each one is contributing? Do you need another month to talk this through? Should we put it on the June PC agenda? The nice thing is everyone's here today, so.
That's right.
So, Mr. Chair, I am good with moving forward, but for procedural issues, does this require a consensus, or is it?
The adoption of the UPWP and the matching amounts of the UPWP, it's not something that's unanimous. It's usually following the Ruckus rule. You just have a majority say it's adopted. So if someone voted no against the UPWP adoption.
Well, Mr. Chair, obviously I'm not, this is not that big an issue to me, so I'm not going to push it, but I was okay with it last meeting. I'm still okay with it. Whatever. We need to take another month. I don't think things will change.
I don't think it changed. We can take a vote today to see where it falls.
It's up to you, Chair. I want to leave this in the hands of the members and
unless we have unanimous, I'm not gonna. Okay, I don't want to move forward. This sounds good. One of those things where you need to go back and see if you can solve your problem to make it unanimous.
And I can tell you
One more divisive thing.
Yeah. I can tell you my board's not going to support paying the full amount. Sadie, hands up again.
Thank you, Chair. When might we revisit the cooperative agreement?
Question for the city of Salem, Sadie. I will let staff know when the city is ready.
Okay, that'd be great. And then I think we wouldn't have any difficulty from staff or from the chair in getting something like that scheduled when we do hear back from the city of Salem.
Just to say, there's going to be a lot of effort, a lot of work to be done by staff figuring out how best to work through this. I want to do it as best as I can. You may remember when we had these discussions 2 years ago, I did suggest we could bring someone from the outside that works on trying to get consensus. So it's not, they're used to bringing people together and forming consensus. And there'd be no question of staff trying to lead the committee one way or another. So maybe think about that as whether you want to spend some of our money to bring someone in to help with that consensus building.
Is that under PL funds?
We would be spending whatever funds we have for the UPWP. Yeah, PL funds has to be chipped. But I don't know what that's going to cost. It's going to cost several $1,000s.
Okay, Mel.
Yeah, I'll just be brief. Director or Chairman Woodhurst, you keep saying that you've got to take it back to your board, but I don't see the other two county commissioners are not on this committee. They're not on SKATS. You are. So I don't know why you can't. They may be unhappy with you taking a position on this without their input, but that's between you and them. This is between you and this committee, is how I see it. If I'm wrong, tell me. But it seems the only thing that's holding us up is that these other two people, the other two Polk County commissioners, need to weigh in, and that just doesn't. I don't understand that. Why can't you make your own decision in this committee?
As a commissioner, I'm elected as one of a board of three.
I understand that, but not all three of those are here. You are.
Correct, and I can make general decisions for the committee of three. When it comes to funding and paying bills, that is a budgetary item that we all agree on. And right now, as a county, our budget is very tight. We are fighting just to keep our county fairgrounds open. So we are looking at every expense we can. And those other two commissioners voted no one. It comes to our budget committee.
May I intervene here a moment? When our budget committee's already passed our recommended budget to the full city council, and that $2,500 amount is in that budget. And I cannot, I'm not, once again, I would charge Polk County $2,500 and move on, but as far as the chair making a decision for the county on a budgetary item on his own, absolutely not. I can't do that as a single city councilor or even mayor. We've already passed a recommended budget, and if that $2,500 amount's going to change, I can't unilaterally change it here. I just can't, and I don't think the chair can do it for Polk County either. That's how I think this government works. Forgive me if I'm wrong.
No, I understand what you're saying, and our budget with the school district is getting ready to close as well. We didn't allocate extra funds for this, so I agree with you. Let's charge Polk County $2,500 and move on. But I'm not going to keep this meeting going longer.
My point is, the chair cannot say yes to that as an individual. He can't do that. So even if he did, the other two board members could overrule him, which would cause. No, he just can't do that. He's being asked to do that, and he can't do that. I can't do that either. Kevin can't do that either. The representative from Keizer can't do that. From Salem can't do that. It has to go through the proper channels in a budgetary committee hearing, and that's all there is to it. So that's where we are. Personally, I'm ready to just move on, period, and address it in the next budgetary process next year. And be quite frank with you, I won't be here, so.
I think we misunderstood each other.
No, I didn't. I didn't.
Okay. Let's move on to H, informational items. I think we'll beat this.
Just moving on, Sharon, are we gonna bring something next month? You need us to bring something?
I guess we're gonna have to. You know, you need consent in order to get some bills paid. But, and I'll talk to the board again. So next policy committee meeting is June 23rd, 2026. The TAC meeting is June 9th, 2026. The OMPOC meeting is June 5th. We have a member that'd be willing to go to the OMPOC meeting. It's June 5th, 9 o'clock, I believe.
And Chair, you normally go, but you can't make it.
I usually go. I can't make it. If I have to, I can, but I've got a event I'd like to attend rather than this. I have relatives coming in from Northern Idaho. So somebody could do it'd be great. And let's leave that open just in case somebody can do that. And that's June 5th. OTC, June 11th in Salem. And I will be at that one. That's just a Zoom meeting. So it may be in person here in Salem. The last OTC meeting, so you know, they had all of the chairs of the acts. My suggestion is on the safety data ODOT keeps track of on roadways, move from a 4-year data thing, and all of their data they operate on is 4 years, move 2 years back. So right now they're working from 2019 to 2023. So all the data happened then, they're basing all the decisions on. Highway 22 and 51 from 1996 to 2025 was in the top 10%. But because 2018 left, we had 6 fatalities in 2018. At 2022, 2019 we had 0. So for the first time in 30 years, it is not in the top 10%. So therefore, it is no longer a priority on ODOT's list. So my movement to OTC was they would move this data to a 10-year and give it much more consistency for all of these projects. It shows Highway 99 and 22 with the overpass being more dangerous than 22 and 51. Even though we just had a school bus involved in head on at 22 and 51. That came right after the report. So hopefully we can get some of that revised. There's a lot of great suggestions going there. And equity across the state was one of the biggest topics. I don't know how the Center Street Bridge, they voted to commit money for the phase 2 of the Center Street Bridge project. So we'll be moving forward. I do not know how that's going to affect our region because there's limited funds. And the comment was, when region's getting this kind of funding, how do we give it to other areas? Other parts of the state need it. This could be a death sentence to all of the projects, or majority of them, that we're looking at in our area. I don't know, but that's what it's looking like until we can get some funding resolved. And you saw what happened at the election. It's going to be very interesting. So moving forward, I think we're all kind of on pins and needles till we figure out where they're getting funding and how much it's going to be. Transportation planning update.
Just 2 items. You've already mentioned the one with Center Street Bridge seismic and the OTC vote last 2 or 3 weeks ago. Also available online is chapter 4 of the long range plan, Metropolitan Transportation Plan. This is existing system. It's a short 80-page. So if you need something to put you to sleep, you can read that. To piggyback on the chair's comment about safety, next month we'll have ODOT do a presentation on their Transportation Safety Action Plan update. So that will talk about all this road-related, street-related safety issues.
And with that, anybody have anything else in closing?
Just quickly going back to the Center Street seismic, I don't know if, is Anna still on the?
No.
No, she had to leave.
Okay. So, with all the delays to, both figuring out the funding for phase 2 and also having to do with, getting the final permits from like the, Coast Guard, the bidding for that project, I think, has been pushed back. Construction start has been pushed back. I don't have the dates for you. Those things have been pushed back. But at least with this decision by the OTC, should be better certainty about funding to, like what you said, the ramifications might be, other projects in the regions might be impacted, so that's nothing I can say about it.
Yeah, it's the only things we just have to watch as it happens. Okay, with that, we're adjourned.